The 1915 fire was much more significant than I think you would realize. It's having its anniversary this year. It was on November 29th, 1915. Now, there was a family over on Marilla. It was really on Whitley, between Whitley and Marilla. There was a family by the name of Rose. And if you go up Whitley and you see a little turn, it's right next to the hotel now. But anyway, just go right around the corner. That's where they had a hotel, their home, and they had a cafeteria. And they were having trouble making ends meet. So they came up with a brilliant idea. Why don't we burn down our home, our cafeteria, and our hotel and collect the fire insurance? Mr. Rose had even a better idea. By the way, they're no relation to the Rose family now, so I want to make sure that you know that this is a whole different Rose family.
Rose by any other name.
Rose by any other name. We know, but that's still the same, so it doesn't.
No, but it sounds good.
To a certain point, and then it contradicts what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, so this is not Roy Rose's family. So anyway, he had a brilliant idea. He said, why don't I lock my mother-in-law in the attic, set the building on fire, and collect her life insurance? So they did.
No.
Now,
He did?
in order for them to pull...
He really put his mother-in-law and set the place on fire?
Wow.
Well, you're jumping ahead.
Okay, sorry.
All I'm saying is this was the plan.
Okay, okay.
So let's don't jump ahead too far.
Very accurate jump.
So now the Rose family didn't want to be implicated in this, but they knew that it was going to happen. So they left before the fire came. So it was their manager that had to do the evil deed. So that morning, if you know where Eucalyptus Street is, which is way up that way, right next to Sumner, but anyway, it's a closed area. He started a fire there, which brought all the fire equipment, which was very limited back in 1915. I mean, you could imagine it was pretty old even then because we never had a fire.
Horse drawn? Horse drawn?
Oh yeah, of course. Well, no, they usually pulled it, seriously. Yeah, they didn't have horses, they just pulled, the water and the hoses. By the way, at that time, the water was coming to the mainland in big 5-gallon or big 20-gallon containers over on the barge, and then you would buy 5 gallons at a time for your hotel room or whatever to bathe in or to whatever. So there was no water supply coming directly to the town except through barges from the mainland at this time.
Drinking water.
Drinking water.
For drinking water?
Yeah, well, now we did have salt water. They had salt water for the fire department. We've had salt water in our toilets, believe it or not, since the 1890s. So they had salt water, but if anyone else wanted to basically put out the fire, whatever, would basically have to use fresh water, and all they had were buckets of that. So anyway, so they went up to put out the fire of the eucalyptus. Now, Mayor Annie, who I thought was going to come, and she still may come, she was here 2 weeks ago, and she said, "I'm so glad that you talked about working with John Gabriel Beckman, the artist, because this was a first-hand." Well, I was going to tell Annie, this is almost the same, because in the 1970s, I interviewed all of the islanders who were here for the 1915 fire. And they all filled in and told me every bit of information that they had so I could collaborate what they saw, where they were. So some of them, like Jimmy Trout, I don't know if you probably don't remember his name, he was up on Eucalyptus, so he verified the fire started there. Okay. So everybody ran up to Eucalyptus. That gave this man a chance to start the fire at the Rose compound, because everybody was up there. And so he could do this and nobody would, know until it was too late. Now, before this happened, Squirrel Darcy, his real name was Stephen Darcy. Now he lived, he was born back in the 1890s. And he worked with Titch Morrison, who was a constable at the time. They found the plot to kill Mrs. Rose's mother, so they got her out in time. But the way he described it, she was pretty pissed off. Which just
You
showed.
think?
Well, come on, they were keeping her warm. It was November, I mean, of course, we're having a warm November now with global warming. But anyway, so he was pretty pissed off. So, but the man, before he realized that she was not there, set the fire. Okay. Now, luckily, the old Hermosa boat was in town, sitting at the dock. So it used his fire hoses to squirt to try to put it out. But what it was really trying to put out is the old Metropole Hotel. Now, the Metropole Hotel went all the way from Metropole Street all the way up to Whitley. The whole front, right where you see the M and all that, that's the M is because it's Metropole.
Right.
That is where the original Metropole Hotel was.
And that's Metropole right over here, the first street.
Well, yeah, and then next to that is Whitley, and then next to that is Marilla. So it went all the way from Metropole, which is where Coney Island West is, all the way over to, I forgot what the kids' store is on the other corner, but anyway. Then it went up 3 stories, and then went all the way back to where the original Vons was, which is up on Metropole over on the right side.
In 1915?
Yes. So it was a major, it had over 150 rooms.
Wow.
Okay.
And,
What year was it built?
Huh?
What year originally was it built? Do you know?
okay, yeah, it was built in, okay, the town of Avalon, by the way, this really bothers me. People are buying these stupid sweaters that says Catalina Island established 1913. Not even close. What happened in 1913 is that Avalon became incorporated in 1913. Catalina took its name in 1702 because of the man by the name of Visconio, the second discoverer, landed on Avalon in Catalina on the eve of the feast of St. Catherine of Alexandria. So he named the island St. Catherine, which Spanish is Santa Catalina. Originally the island was called Pimu. When the natives were here, when the Tongva Indians were here, the island was called Pimu. We were called Pimungas.
How do you spell that?
P-I-M-U.
Yeah.
That is correct,
We were
Pimu.
Pimungas, or the natives here at the time were Pimungas. Then when Cabrillo made the first discovery in 1542, he changed the name to his flagship, the San Salvador. So the name of Catalina went from Pimu to San Salvador. And then in 1702, when Visconio came, he was superstitious, and because he arrived on the eve of the feast of St. Catherine of Alexandria, he thought, because some of his men had died coming to Catalina, he thought in order to have a safe trip, they would change the name, and that's how he got the name Santa Catalina. So when you see a shirt that says Santa Catalina Island established 1913, it just means it was incorporated. Avalon was incorporated.
Right.
We're the only incorporated town on Catalina. So we were incorporated in 1913. That's nothing to do with the name of, well, it does, Avalon's on Catalina Island, but other than that, it has no. So anyway.
One question.
Yeah.
What was Cabrillo's ship's original name? Before he changed it to San Salvador.
Ooh.
Oh, is that a trivia?
I hate him. He does
Pop quiz.
What When was it?
I was asking you, I don't know.
Why did he change the name
It might come to me, but right now, oh, when did he change the name?
of the ship?
I don't know, that's what I was
Did he
asking.
change it? Did
No,
you
no,
just make
what?
You
that
said
up?
1542.
Okay, let's start again.
It was the name of the island that changed, not the name of the ship.
Okay, his ship was the San Salvador in 1542.
Right.
They changed the name of the island, not the ship.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I get
the island. It went from Pimu to what did you, San,
Okay, it started off Pimu,
then
then it went to San Salvador,
to Santa
then
Catalina
it
because
went
of
to
the,
Catalina Island.
yes.
So the island changed name, but his ship didn't. I don't, okay, I should do my research and find out what Vizcaino's name of his ship was, but he didn't name anything after his ship. He named it Catalina Island because of Saint Catherine of Alexandria, the patron saint on that day.
I stand corrected.
No, it's okay. No, but he threw that at me and they changed the name of his ship? Whoa!
Well, I said it with conviction.
You did? I said, you've done some research, but I don't know why. In fact, I understand it's bad luck to change the name of a ship, especially if something went wrong with it.
Right.
So again,
What was the original name of the Titanic?
no, it had, yeah.
Sinkaroonie.
I mean,
Lollipop. Okay, so anyway, so the 15 fire, by the time the fire stopped, it burned down all of the Front Street to Metropole. It went up Metropole, took out everything all the way up there, along with Whitley and Marilla, took out everything, took out the Tuna Club, which was built in 1908. So the Tuna Club there, even though they was established in 1898, that one was built in 1916. It took out the Hotel Catalina, which had been built in the 1890s. So the first two buildings after the 1915 fire to be built was the Hotel Catalina and the Tuna Club. They were both built in 1916. So those are not the original buildings, but that's how destructive the fire was. Now, originally they assumed it was arson, but they couldn't prove it. Now this is where it gets very interesting, and I have a feeling you can help me because you look like you like doing research. I would like to find out the
Elders in the
missionaries
house.
hiding is all.
Elders in the house.
I would like to find out what happened at the trial, because at least now, if this was caused by arson, you cannot collect fire insurance if it's arson. Now, one building was arson, but that arson fire caused half the town to burn down. So whether or not in those days, that would mean that none of the buildings would be able to get the insurance to cover it. I don't know. The other one is, what happened to Mrs. Rose's mother? If she confessed to the fact that they locked her up in the attic, obviously that would be there's a term for that.
Attempted murder.
Well, attempted murder.
False imprisonment.
Huh?
Matricide.
Matricide?
Eventually she died.
Oh, because it was a mother?
Kidnapped.
Yeah. I thought you meant because she had a mattress that was on fire. Okay, now, the implications are very interesting. If the insurance companies got wind of the fact that this was arson and didn't pay up, the Bannings owned the island this time. This was 1915. Mr. Wrigley didn't buy the island until 1919 because of the fire. They asked him, could you help us and buy the island from us for $1 million because we're basically broke. Now, most of the buildings were owned by the Bannings. So they had a lot to lose because they couldn't rebuild the town. they wouldn't be able to collect insurance. So this is my feeling, but I would love to find, because they have to have it someplace, of the actual court proceedings